to Metal Band's Chronicles, where metal lives. Stay loud, stay heavy. This is where metal lives. Welcome to Metal Band's Chronicles, where metal lives. That's right. We're back for a highly anticipated review, I think. And this is the first album review I've done in quite a long time on this channel. I haven't done reviews on here in a while. So we're going to do an album review for an album that had a lot of anticipation behind it. I'm talking about the 17th and supposedly final studio album by Megadeth. And I only say supposedly because a lot of bands nowadays will, say they're going to retire, then they keep going, they keep making albums. You know how that goes. The Scorpions did it. Motley Crue has done it. A bunch of other bands have done it too, say they're going to hang it up and keep going. Even though this album does seem pretty sincere when you listen to it, that this could be the final studio album, but you never know. Anyways, of course, we're talking about Megadeth, the self-titled album. I got 2 versions of it. Yes, I went and bought the Target version last Friday. I had to go to 4 different Target stores to get this. Everybody else had it on vinyl, and I just didn't want to get the vinyl. I'm not really into collecting vinyls anymore, but anyway, I got the one. I got it with the bonus track Bloodlust on it, and yes, so that would make it 12 tracks as far as this version goes, and 11 tracks as far as the standard version goes. Well, technically 10, but Ride the Lightning's the bonus track on here, Anyway, so yeah, Megadeth. What can be said? Megadeth has been around a long freaking time, man, since 1983. We don't have to go into the whole history. It's been documented to death at this point. Everybody who's a metalhead, a metal fan knows this, about how Dave Mustaine got kicked out of... Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. We're going to do an album review, not talk about the back history. Man, so yeah, this album seems to be getting a lot of mixed reviews. There's people that love it, and then there's people that think it's freaking terrible. I've even heard people say that, they speculate that AI was used on this album. That, I don't know. I was in the studio with Dave Mustaine when this was recorded. Neither were you. You can speculate all you want, but we don't know if it's AI. We don't know. We weren't in the studio with him, so let's just get to the tracks. I mean, there was 4 singles released prior to this album coming out. Tipping Point, man. Tipping Point, the first track. What a raging, fast thrashing tune. When that was unleashed, man, I freaking enjoyed it right away because I love fast, aggressive Megadeth. Definitely harkens back to the early days. I mean, and you could probably say it's a continuation of what you heard on the last Megadeth album, The Sick, the Dying, and the Dead too. Or maybe Dystopia. It does kind of have that modern Megadeth sound mixed with the old school thrash sound, Really cool raging track. I Don't Care was the next one that came out. A lot of people seem to have very mixed feelings about this. A lot of people would say this is probably one of the worst Megadeth songs ever. I freaking love it, man. I loved it right when I heard it. It's punky, kind of has that snotty Dave Mustaine, so far so good, so what era attitude when you think of songs like Liar, their cover of Anarchy in the UK, and I could see why, if you don't like punk, why you wouldn't like it. I have no problem with the song. The lyrics don't even bother me either, It seems like a lot of people are really bothered with some of the lyrics on this album, which, I don't know. To me, it just sounds like a fun song. I think maybe I have a minor gripe. There's a line in the track that does seem like it's directed towards Dave Ellefson. The part where he's talking about masturbation, jacking off, or whatever. Oh, no, I don't have a problem with the song, and it's got some smoking leads in it, too, So then we got Hey God. A lot of people seem to not really care for this track either. Hey God. Actually, you know what? I didn't have a problem with it. Now this one kind of harkens back to like Countdown to Extinction, maybe a little bit of cryptic writings. Maybe that's why some people don't like it, but I do like mid-paced Megadeth. I do like cryptic writings. I think it's a good hard rock heavy metal album. You know, I do like Countdown to Extinction too, so I have no problem with Hey God. And I've heard some people in their reviews saying they don't want Dave shoving religion down their throats, which I don't think he's really doing. Or they don't want him talking about speaking to God or questioning God or whatever. I mean, I don't know, man. Musically, I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a mid-paced track, but I didn't mind it at all. So then we get Let There Be Shred. Now, this one really harkens back to like the early Megadeth days. Kind of, I would say this one kind of harkens back to like Killing Is My Business, like around that period. And Dave Mustaine, when he says, Let There Be Shred, that part right there, I can kind of hear like a young Dave Mustaine from that era, you know, for the moment, you know. This song rips. Fucking just ferocious drumming, fast guitars, excellent leads. Again, a lot of people would say the lyrics are silly on this track. To me, it just seems like Dave's having fun on this track. I have no problem with it. I think it rips. So then we get the last single that was released prior to the album coming out, which is Puppet Parade. Again, this track really harkens back to Countdown to Extinction. I really hear like the Countdown to Extinction vibe here. I mean, this kind of reminds me of, I want to say, This Was My Life from Countdown to Extinction, or even a little bit of Almost Honest off of Cryptic Writings. I kind of hear in the riff, you know, maybe a little bit of Dread in the Fugitive Mind, you know, from A World Needs a Hero. I can hear a little bit. Again, it's one of those good mid-paced Megadeth tracks. I think the song's pretty darn good, even if it does sound repetition, you know, which I think you kind of get a lot of that on this album. Like, to me, if I were to, well, we'll talk about that at the end. Let's just go through the songs quick. Yeah, Puppet Parade's good. Another Bad Day. This is another one people do not like. I kind of got into this track right away, man. It definitely sounds like it could have been on Euthanasia or Cryptic Writings. I kind of get a Secret Place type of vibes to this track and the music. Definitely more of a hard rock type of track, but I kind of enjoyed it. You know, for what it was, I really enjoyed this track. I can't say I haven't complained about it. I mean, yeah, I would say it's probably one of the weaker tracks on the album, but it's still not like a bad track. All right, so then we pick up the thrash again. So Made to Kill, this one's pretty thrashy. I mean, it kind of has to stop and start stuff like Rust in Peace had, you know, where you'd have like intricate parts, some fast parts, some mid-paced parts, you know, and just total shredding. That's kind of what I get here with Made to Kill. Pretty much enjoyed this track too, you know. I thought it was a pretty good thrashy tune, you know. Yeah, it's not like one of the greatest thrashy Megadeth tunes ever, but for what it is, it's pretty darn good, especially in this stage of Dave Mustaine's career, you know. Not a bad track at all. So next is Obey the Call. This one kind of threw me off guard. Now this one's a weird one. It does kind of have that Cryptic Writings, Euthanasia type of sound, but then it gets super thrashy at the end. This song, man, when it gets thrashy at the end, it reminds me of a song off of End Games. I want to say Bodies, because Bodies gets like super thrashy at the end of that track too. It kind of reminds me of that. All in all, this track's pretty enjoyable. I'd say maybe a weaker track on the album though, to be honest, but it's still not like terrible. But it's pretty decent, you know. So then we go to I Am War. Now, when I was originally listening to this, I thought this was actually the weakest track on here, but this one kind of grew on me. I mean, I'd still probably say it's my least favorite on the album, but it's still pretty dang good, you know. Pretty memorable. And, you know, that's the thing about this album, too. I think these songs are very memorable. Like, they stand out, you know. And then we get the final track on the standard album version, you know. Oh, yeah, the last note. The last note. Ain't gonna lie, man, this one was kind of emotional to listen to because, you know, it just seems like, even though it's not a good album, I was kind of getting Ordinary Man vibes from Ozzy on this track. Like David saying goodbye. That's kind of the emotion I got in this track. And, you know, being somebody that's been a fan of Megadeth for 38 years, since 1988, you know, I got started when I was very young with Megadeth. Hook and Mouth was the very first song I ever heard by Megadeth on that thrash metal compilation cassette tape that a friend of mine had years ago. Not long after that, I remember hearing So Far So Good So What, which came out that year too, not too long after that. So, you know, thinking back at my history with Megadeth, this song was pretty darn emotional, you know. And being that I've seen Megadeth 4 times in concert, I'm going to be seeing them a 5th time this year, possibly in September, you know, when they come here with Iron Maiden. You know, so yeah, it was kind of an emotional track. I think it's a really good track. I think it's a really good send-off type of track. And it would make sense, too. I don't think it would be appropriate if Megadeth did continue on to make another album after a track like this. I think this is the perfect send-off type of track, you know, saying goodbye, which, you know, it's a good track. Really good track, I think, to end this. So then you get a bonus track, obviously, you know, a cover of Ride the Lightning, which really has people in uproar, it seems. Dave's just doing this because he wants to prove something to Metallica. Who knows what the story is? It kind of makes sense to me, though. If you really think about it, it makes sense to do a cover of something he wrote when he was in Metallica. You know, it could have been Metal Militia, too, or a song like that, but he chose Ride the Lightning. I think it's really appropriate, because if you go back to the debut album, Killing Is My Business, there was a cover of The Mechanics. I take that back. Actually, I take that back. I'm saying that's wrong. It's not a cover, because Dave Mustaine wrote The Mechanics. And technically, I guess you could say this Ride the Lightning bonus track isn't a cover, because he did co-write this when he was still in Metallica. So, you know, I kind of agree it's not really a cover, since Dave did co-write on it. But it makes sense because, you know, in the beginning, he did The Mechanics. And in the end, it makes sense to do Ride the Lightning, if you really think about it. Because, you know, it shows where Dave Mustaine came from in the beginning, you know, to the current, you know. So I think it makes a lot of sense. As far as the cover goes, I see a lot of people complaining about it. I had no problem with it, you know, to be honest. Yeah, Dave's voice probably don't work well on it, but who cares at the end of the day? You know, I enjoyed it. Of course, it's not as good as the original. The original will always be the best. But then again, you got to think about it in retrospect. Would it sound any better? And God forbid if this ever happens. I hope to God it never happens. If Metallica went back in and re-recorded Ride the Lightning, do you think James Hetfield seriously is going to sing Ride the Lightning as good as he did back in 1984? Heck no. It would be so much worse. And I guarantee you Lawrence's drumming would be way dumbed down if they went in and re-recorded it. Don't want to give Metallica no bad ideas to go re-record their albums from back then. That would be just a travesty in its own right. Either or. I thought this album was pretty enjoyable, man. The Bloodlust track, it could definitely have been on the standard album. It's freaking good. I think Bloodlust definitely sounds like it could have been on Rust in Peace. It's freaking good, man. I enjoyed it a lot, man. And then the other track, there's another bonus track that was, I think it was like an iTunes or a Spotify a limited edition called Nobody's Hero. I think that's what it's called. I did listen to that too. I thought that track was pretty damn good too. Maybe better than a couple of the tracks that are on the standard album, you know. All in all, man, you know, what am I going to grade this album, this final studio album by Megadeth? Because I think fucking Timu's freaking leads are incredible on this album. Yeah, Timo Masasari, you know, his first and last Megadeth album, but I thought he did a heck of a job. You know, he comes from Winter's Son, of course. I got to see him live when he first joined Megadeth, and I thought he was incredible live back in 2023 with Biohazard. And it was right around the time too where he just replaced Kiko. And I thought he sounded incredible. He played Marty's parts pretty much perfect, you know. That's another thing too. The last track on here, the last note, has some. I think it has one of my favorite fucking guitar leads on a Megadeth album. You know, because it really reminds me of Tornado of Souls a little bit. That solo, just a little bit. And I kind of like the acoustic guitar thing behind it too. That's kind of cool. So yeah, there's some really good playing on here. I mean, to be a Megadeth, you have to be a top-notch player. And then you got Derek's drumming, pretty awesome stuff. You know, James Lomenzo does some pretty cool bass work. I mean, I guess it would have been kind of cool if David Ellefson could have been on this final Megadeth album, but we're not going to get into that debacle either. All in all, I know a lot of people ain't going to agree with this review, and guess what? You have a right to disagree too, because that's the whole point of this. I'm giving this new Megadeth album an 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I thought the songs were real catchy. I listened to this, I'd say I probably listened to this either 10 or 15 times already. It just kept getting played in my car over and over as I was going to work throughout the week and stuff, you know. That's my review. Keep it freaking metal. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that fun stuff. And see you guys on the flip side.